Thank you. Agenda, probably want to take some things out of order here. And who do we want to get out of here first?
Who do we want to get out of here first?
So we just have number 2.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll make a motion that we take the agenda at the chair's discretion, in an
Yep.
order at the chair's discretion.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So Chestnut Street and Forest Street road repairs. Lindsay will take the lead.
And Mike, if you don't mind, you can just get some additional information. Well, actually, maybe if it gets to that point. Thank you. So, Highway is here to request that the select board declare repairs necessary for Chestnut Street and Forest Street up to house number 11. The bylaw requires that all of the abutters on these roads sign a hold harmless agreement. So Mike and I actually went door to door, got all the signatures required for these sections of road. I don't have that with me, but if you guys need those copies, I can provide them. And so basically, the next step in the bylaw requires permission from the select board to go forward with making necessary temporary repairs to these 2 gravel private roads.
What will you do for the surface?
Sure, so Mike and I went out there today and took some measurements on the length. We didn't actually measure the width, but regardless. We were hoping to, as if you've driven down there at all, it's pretty bad. So there are some real high spots that we want to bring down the high spots a little bit, fill in the low spots, or with the use of our loader, maybe both loaders, depending on who we have for operators. Our roller for compacting, and we're hoping to borrow East Brookfield's drag box or box grader they're called, which is ideal for leveling and.
For something small like that, too, because it's too tight for a bigger grader.
Right, exactly
Yep.
right, and it's pretty well packed down, so the box drag would be a really useful tool for us to help kind of bring it up, loosen it up a little bit.
And we talked to Mike there from East Brookfield, and he's got it pretty much pitched, so there's gonna be a crown in the road.
Correct, yeah.
The way he's got it set up, so.
So nothing extraordinary, like it says, temporary repairs, but it is much needed. So we're hoping to get it more level, and mostly because of the plowing, the inability to get in there safely and appropriately with a plow truck, and also if an ambulance or a
Needs
fire
to get
truck
in there.
needed to get in. I mean, it is just
Yeah.
really, really poor
It's
conditions.
bad enough even without snow. It'd be a
Yes,
hazard
exactly.
to
Did
get
you
the
guys
ambulance in there.
plow it last year?
We did what we
Yeah,
could, Mike can probably answer better,
Yeah.
To
but,
be honest with you, I told the guys not to, but they went in anyways.
yeah, and even the
Because
job they did was
The
pretty
road was
terrible.
terrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, because when you're saying you're going to crown it, when you
Right,
go to,
yeah.
we'll have to address it probably
Yeah,
in the spring
absolutely.
again.
So what material will you use to do it?
So, so the crushed gravel, which we created a line item for on the budget for last year, we currently have plenty of stockpile to use for this specific project and other.
The problem is the gravel that we have stockpiled is probably not going to last nearly as good as if you bought that broken ledge over.
Well, we can
Oxford.
certainly do that too. We still,
So I
this
think
is, this.
If you're going to do it,
Yeah.
I think it's worth doing it with the broken ledge. So
Absolutely. I take that advice all day. Yeah, absolutely. Which is great because this actually, the gravel we have stockpiled is from last year's budget. So we have not actually touched this year's budget for private road purchase. So I'd be happy to, actually, I need to submit there. Anyway,
Yeah, they gave you the info.
They did, yeah. I just need to fill out the application to set up a Net 30 account with them.
Perfect. I'll make a motion that we allow the highway department to take care of Chestnut Street and Fourth Street.
Second.
Any discussion?
we still have Draper. We went there and did the same thing. We haven't heard from everybody. I know the bus company's complaining about it.
Do you leave a note on the door when you go?
We did. When we go and we don't receive somebody opening the door, I leave them a copy of the hold harmless with some check boxes on it, and I write a little handwritten note like, here's what we need, we'd like to fix your road, if you have any questions, I give them all my contact
So
info.
I don't know if you want to give us the okay to do that once we get those, so we can get it done before snow flies? or-
I'd be
Sure.
happy to make a motion that we approve, we authorize doing the work on Draper pending the balance of the hold harmless agreements.
Second.
That's great, thank you. Honestly, these are things that are super
We need to
required.
vote that.
Yeah, we
Um,
need to unvote the other one?
No.
Or that's just an
Two
amendment?
That's just,
separate votes.
that's two
Alright.
separate
Oh, an
votes.
amendment. I just have a question for you guys now. When the hold harmlesses are submitted to the town, is that something that has an expiration date? Or is this like an open-ended, or
I
maybe
think
that's
typically
something
it's
where-
considered for the season, for that
Yeah,
action.
Oh, okay.
Now, so typically it's for the season, however,
Yeah,
what we may want to do
Just put a
is,
date on
is either put a date, start putting a date on them, like
Yeah.
a through date on them.
okay.
Or, we could give them a check, we could get the hold harmless modified to have a checkbox for 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years.
Oh, I like that.
So the only,
That's a good
the
idea.
only concern I have with that would be real estate transfer.
Yeah, well, we'd have to check,
Right.
that we would have to check that the
Yeah.
assessors still, like if we had a 5-year, we would just have to check that the assessor,
Yeah,
it would
Hasn't
have to be
changed
part of their
ownership or
process, that
whatever.
they'd have to
Yeah.
double check that
Yeah.
it hadn't changed ownership
Yeah.
before they did
Okay,
anything.
yeah, that's fair. Great.
So, but that would be my recommendation, is add a checkbox for the duration of the hold harmless.
Okay, yeah, certainly. Great, thank you.
Alright. Discussion?
Thank you.
How's the bylaws read about who supplies the materials on these private roads? I know some roads you ask for money from the people. What's the status on these two roads?
So the town actually doesn't request funds from the residents. There's a reason why the town decided to put a line item specifically for purchasing materials for the use on private roads only. And it's contingent upon, like I said, the hold harmless agreement has to be signed to, free us of any damages that happen during the project. But there should never be a time where a resident pays money to the town for us making the repairs.
But I remember down of Allen Road last year, they chipped, they all chipped in for the material. There's something in the bylaw, I'm just asking.
I
Have
actually,
it clarified.
you can read, I actually have it here if you want to take a look at it.
Well, in all honesty, when you buy a piece of property on a private road, I'm sure somewhere in your deed, there has to be something saying that you're responsible for the road in front of your property. The town really doesn't even have to take care of private roads. This is just something.
Actually, it's kind of a blind spot in the
It
law,
is.
so,
It's-
so
there's
the
a
deeds,
webinar
the
every
deeds.
month on it.
Yeah, the deeds don't say nothing, they just, it's kind of, it's almost a caveat emplorum type of situation where a lot of people who buy on private roads have no idea what it means.
That is 100% accurate. A lot of
Yeah.
people will call and ask the questions, and I kind of
You have to
give
answer
them
the
the
question
facts.
for them.
Yeah, it's, what do you mean that you guys don't plow my road? What do you mean you're not going to come fill our potholes? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody did call about
is
that.
that good? Do you want your own copy?
They are private roads. Forest and Chestnut are private roads.
Oh, yeah, that,
So.
Well, it's not really a
well,
favor.
Well, it's, I mean, for the most part, it's really for the sake of, as residents, we do still owe them public safety, like having police officers and ambulance being able to get there. So it's this weird gray area because technically the road maintenance, including plowing,
Just
should
as
be
private ways.
the responsibility of the folks that have those roads, which is why the private roads generally have the lowest priority for plowing, right? But if we can do it when we get around to it,
I have a different feeling on that. The person on a private road pays the same rate of tax as a public way that's maintained fully. So I think it's our obligation to help out the people on a private road, is my personal opinion.
Just curious,
Yeah.
because I know we had the other thing where people could take gravel. What was it, last year we had that thing where people could take gravel and fill in
their own potholes.
their potholes, that sort of thing?
I think
I
that's
think
the,
that's more
that's
of a
the crushed
courtesy
gravel,
to-
that's the
yeah.
crushed gravel that Lindsay's talking about.
Yeah, basically, if somebody wants to come with a 5-gallon bucket and hand shovel their own gravel for their pothole, we're not going to stop them from doing that, yeah.
Don't we get the motion on the town hall floor about plowing private roads every year?
Well, we allocate money to
$1.
$1.
I think, I want to say that was
I
your.
think last year we actually changed.
Well, now we
Yeah,
put it to like 3,000
Yeah,
or whatever
right,
we put in there for
right.
materials.
Yeah.
Yeah. But historically speaking, we
It was
voted
always a
it, it
dollar,
was
yeah.
$1 just as a token, so there was a budget line item that things could be charged against. So,
Right. All in favor?
aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Next,
Thanks, Michael.
Mr. Blanchard. Appointment of Police Officer John Marty. I did some further research on it, and actually I didn't get a chance to talk to you about it. I talked briefly with Ron about it today. I mean, my only big concern was if something were to happen, and the only thing that it seems like is ever done out there is some sort of conditional employment agreement. Should in the event he not finish the academy, we can have a line drawn in the sand that he's no longer an employee. But,
Correct, because he wouldn't be able to
right,
function, he wouldn't be able to do the function of the job, so.
right.
Yeah, no, I don't even necessarily think we need
Yeah.
a separate agreement to cover that.
Yeah, I don't think we need a separate
Right.
agreement because you can't be a police officer in
can't
this
be a-
state without
Correct.
finishing the academy.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
So,
would he be
Correct.
done on administrative leave?
No, because he
No.
doesn't fulfill the requirements of the
Right,
job.
he's not qualified
Yeah.
to hold the position. So, and then the other question that I was asked to look up was when the last time we sent somebody through the academy was, and that was about 5 years ago, and that individual is still working with us. I think in my tenure here, I've only sent 2 people to the academy, and the other one, previous to the one that's still working with the department, worked 2.5 years after graduating. Or I shouldn't say after graduating, he worked 2.5 years full-time. So I'm assuming part of that was considered while he was in the academy,
okay,
but that was 2.5 years.
right. So it was basically 2 years past his graduation because the academy's like 6 months.
Right, but the most recent one is an officer that graduated 5 years ago, and he's still employed with the department full-time.
So I wasn't too far off. I said it was 2 or 3 years on one and 5 on the other, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Gee, I actually had my facts straight or something. Okay. So, I mean, I'll make a motion to hire him for the chief's recommendation.
I would just want to make an amendment to that, he was requested for October 6th, and if we want to go back to October 6th to show good faith.
I'm happy to, let me amend that motion, and I would like to make a motion that we hire Officer Marty and make.
Marty.
Yeah, I said Officer Marty. I did say Marty.
I thought you said Murray.
No, I said Marty. I'm sorry, it's your hearing and the fact that I turned Ts into Ds, actually. Too much Channel 5 as a child, back when there was only 3 channels. So, Officer Marty, retroactive to 10/6/24.
I have a question.
Hold on,
Where-
one sec,
coming
one sec.
You want a second for discussion?
I'll second it for discussion. Go ahead.
So,
Where are the funds coming from?
so the funds are already there. So it's an open position that's already been budgeted for. There are not any extra funds. So there's 2 open positions right now. So the funds are there. They're already budgeted.
The funds are there to pay him, but not
Sure.
for the academy.
We're not paying for the academy. All we're doing is paying his salary. We're not paying for the academy. We're not paying for any of that. It's just,
How is that being paid?
that was already taken care of somehow through him.
He paid.
Or actually, I stand corrected. He actually got a scholarship through Anna Maria, and that scholarship paid for him to go to the academy, is what happened. So that's already been taken care of, not at the cost of Brookfield.
And it's a 6-month academy?
It is a 6-month academy. He's already 4 months into it. The graduation date is December 6th.
Has he been working for us?
No, no.
Any other discussion? Did you have a,
Yeah, of course. Just came up so you could hear me. Chief, you said the last time you did this was 5 years ago, is that correct? I remember 2 years ago.
Who did we send 2 years ago?
I don't know the name. I just remember
That's
the
in-
answer I got from this board was, this is
That's-
a new board and we'll do what we want to do.
That's
So I
incorrect.
just want to know if this practice is going to continue on the taxpayers, and I know you're in a bind to get somebody, I understand all that, but I just want to know from you, you know, you promised a couple of times that you wouldn't do this, so just, I know you're in a
So Dave-
bind. I know you're, hang on, I just want to know if this practice is, you know, going to continue or.
I've never promised that I wouldn't do it. I've promised I'd do my best not to do it. It's not my first choice. You can go back and look at any meeting minutes, any recordings. I've never said I will not do it. It is not my preference to do, and it will continue not to be my preference. But the pool, the candidate pool out there is shallow, you know?
I know it is.
So I will do everything that I can not to do it, but I can't promise that it's not gonna happen.
Okay, now where's the money's coming out of your budget?
The money's already in my budget. It's
What part of the budget?
our police officer expense.
Salary.
It's a salary expense.
Okay. And what's the figure?
I don't have my budget
For
figure
the
in
6
front of
months,
me.
I mean, roughly.
It's
We're not paying him for the 6
we're paying
months.
for
We're
2
paying him
months.
from the date of hire, this point forward. So 4 months, he's not getting paid.
Okay, it's 4 months, okay, not 6, okay.
It's 2 months.
2 months that
2
we would be
months.
paying him while he's in the academy.
Oh,
Listen.
well, that's not too bad then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
all right.
And it's 4 months. We don't go back pay him or anything like that. That's just him being a self-sponsor in the academy and
Well, 2 months is a whole lot better than.
6
what I
months.
thought.
So I had a question. I'm going to say 4, 6 months ago, you came in and requested someone. Is this the same individual? And then did you not end up paying because he received the scholarship? Is this the same person? that
no,
you talked
no.
about?
So the one I came in before was full-time academy trained. He got appointed, he worked, then he resigned. He only stuck around for 4 months.
But I thought I remember roughly 6 months ago, you had someone in mind that you were thinking of sending to the academy, but that's not.
No, I
this is
wasn't.
not the same
There was,
individual.
I was
there
not.
was something, but I don't think, yeah.
So I remember last February,
I think
I
you
came in
talked with
front
us
of the
about
board and
doing
said,
something.
could I? I
Right.
didn't have
Right.
anyone in mind. I just wanted the option in case
Okay.
it fell upon that, and they said, the board at that time said yes. I did not end up having to send somebody to the academy because I had the individual that got the job but recently resigned.
So I met with John Marty on Sunday for about an hour. I couldn't think of a better individual. Just in an hour's time, I thought he was just a great person.
I
So
appreciate that.
We've
Okay.
got a motion in a second.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you. Assistant Animal Control Officer, discussion and appointment. Ron?
Volunteer for the Central Massachusetts Disaster Animal Response Team, so she's very familiar with this type of role and responsibility. I did discuss the rather small stipend that comes along with the being Assistant Animal Control Officer. She understood that. She didn't have an issue with that. She also has just finished completing her Animal Control Officer competency session, phase 1, and I believe next week she's actually going to be entering her phase 2. So once she finishes those, then she'll be completely qualified to be a full animal control officer, a primary if need be. So that was one. Oh, and she also has a vehicle that has a cage, and she's comfortable. So that was one of the candidates. The other candidate was, sorry, Schmidt, and actually from West Brookfield, so also 8 to 10 minute response time, problem. Transport.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve, we appoint Deborah Young for our Assistant ACO.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Signed state election warrant.
Okay. guess I'll just make a motion that we sign the warrant as printed.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, we're all set with this is just the warrant. The date is.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep.
Three copies.
Yep,
Yeah. Do you want to pass them around?
yep. You can start with this, because that's that appointment. Visitors Code of Conduct discussion. Do you want to lead off? Or?
Yeah, do you want me to
Sure.
recap what
Sure.
my discussion with town council? Well, earlier in the week, at the request of the chair, I did touch base with town council with regards to options available to the board on how to respond to a recent disruptive incident that occurred at the last select board meeting. And quite frankly, there's not that many options, to be honest. She had indicated that one of the things that could possibly be a response is a letter of reprimand or admonishment for the individual. In essence, really, how it would be is a verb, or excuse me, a written expression of the feeling of the board. That obviously wouldn't carry any disciplinary weight or anything like that, since the individual is not an employee of the town. So it would solely be that. A couple other options that she had indicated is, since the incident really did occur before the meeting occurred, many of the options available to the chair to conduct an orderly meeting are really not available. However, she did indicate, since the meetings do begin at 7 o'clock generally, that the one option would be that the select board not enter the room until shortly before 7 o'clock, or the reverse of that, the board could be in the room or the meeting location, and public would not be let in until approximately a minute or so beforehand to, I guess, mitigate and minimize the amount of time that any pre-meeting disruptions could occur. But really, above and beyond that, there really weren't a lot of options available to the board in their response.
So our visitor code of conduct isn't worth the paper it's written on. If it's an open meeting, with regards to open meeting. So if it was regards to behavior during business hours and doing business, we might have some options, but because of this fact of it being open meeting, we basically we can only dictate conduct outside of open meetings.
Correct. As I had indicated, most of the options available to the board and specifically to the chair are with regards to disrupting a meeting, but since the meeting had not technically began at that point when the disruption occurred, all of those
So, although it does say
options.
violators who do not comply with this policy may be asked to leave the premises. So in the future, if an action like that should occur, regardless of it being open meeting, do we have the option stated within our visitors code of conduct, which is to tell the person they need to leave? I mean, it states it right there.
Yeah, we.
So what part of it is not acceptable? Is it because it's open meeting? I mean, we're streaming the meeting specifically so that people who aren't comfortable in the room are able to somewhat participate. Are we saying that we can't have any expectation?
Well, I guess we could. I believe, and I don't want to speak for town council, she didn't go into much detail with regards to that, but my feeling is that she feels as though we could be getting into trouble with regards to
Open meeting law.
open meeting law, but also just violating the rights of the individual, where removal is, I guess, at a higher level, for lack of a better term.
God, that doesn't pass the sniff check. It just doesn't pass the sniff check at all. It really doesn't.
If the board desires, I could certainly follow up for a more detailed explanation with regards to that specific action.
Okay. I would be curious. Thank you.
You have anything?
Would anyone mind if I actually talked to Michelle directly?
Go, I don't care.
Do you care
I
if
don't mind.
Okay. Do you mind if I just talk to Michelle directly? I have some-
Sure.
Because it's a continuation of a prior conversation with her just about madness in general, but, thank you.
Fair
Let me
enough.
ask you this, could you do a conference call with Ron and Michelle?
I'm happy to have Ron on the line,
Yeah,
as long as
Sure.
y'all don't mind me
Yeah, if you
being
don't
part of the
mind doing that,
conversation. Sure.
Yeah, if you could just let me know what time's a good time for you. I know your commute is usually a good time.
Yeah, my commute is a good time, but I would probably want to not have the background noise if possible, so I'll try to find some time when I'm going to be stationary and
Okay.
see if Michelle can be available.
And just as a heads up, Michelle had warned me that they were kind of entering fall special town meeting,
Period.
heavy-duty time.
Okay.
And their time is
Really tight.
very tight,
Okay,
probably for the next 2 to 3 weeks.
okay, all right,
But certainly worth, asking her.
yeah, yeah. I'll shoot her an email and give her a couple of options and see if any of them are a possibility. I'll copy you on it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sign retirees' new medics rate sheet.
Point of order. You take you open this up for discussion?
We don't need to open it up for discussion.
You don't want the public to know what's drastically took place? Okay. That seemed to be a little, she was being offended, she couldn't, violate anybody with what took place.
I just think it was in such poor taste that I just find it, I don't know, trying to think of the best phrase for it. It doesn't further the dialogue about anything pertaining to the town business.
Nothing really took place.
No, not that
That's
nothing
what you're
really
saying.
took place. What I'm saying is that the behavior is one that all it does is generate noise when we have business to take care of, and it's just stupid.
So that's kind of like blocking out freedom of speech in some manner?
I don't think, and I suspect that's why our legal counsel is saying that
There's nothing
this
there.
is unenforceable, okay?
Right, there's
But,
nothing there.
but I have some challenges with that. If that's the case, then why do we even have this on paper? Because what you're saying is we can have a 3-ring circus that has no merit and no link to any of the business of the town, and that we can just abuse one another publicly all the time, and that's okay.
Town council is saying that nothing happened pertaining to your code of ethics there. That's what they're pretty much saying. Nothing took place according to what you have on your paper.
No, that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is that what's on our paper is unenforceable. That's what they're saying.
And that's not the way I see it.
So, well, you're the one that thought that you're the one that didn't actually have the facts relative to people leaving after they attend the academy. So I think some of the facts that you claim are facts are not necessarily clearly facts, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't be engaging.
Yeah, let's,
So,
No, the
That's
facts
good.
are fine, I just gotta get that, on that situation, I wanted to make it clear, and they made it clear. Had nothing to do with facts.
so,
we'll
We're
move,
not talking about that, we're talking about this,
so,
okay?
we'll move to the medics rates.
sure thing.
Yes, we have received the MedX rates, which are the rates that are the health insurance rates that are charged for our retirees. And unfortunately, the rate increase will be approximately 20%, actually a little higher than 20%. In calling around and talking to some of contiguous towns and some of my colleagues, this does seem to be pretty much across the board that people are seeing these increases around this amount. So it's unfortunate, but it is industry-wide.
How many retirees do we have currently on the books? I know we have a lot because of the school.
Yeah, I believe Sharon had indicated we have 30.
So I have a question regarding this. And it's related to this. We're gonna have to sign the rates.
Right.
Right, we're gonna have to accept them. We have to have a fall special,
Correct.
okay. Do we want to, can we check with the accountant whether it's legal for us to use the OPEB funds that we've put away previously to, try to like cover maybe half of it for 1 year so that the retirees have a chance to, you know, at least take some of the blowouts, since that's what that funding is actually set aside for. And it might at least mitigate some of the impact on our retirees since they're all on a fixed income.
I could certainly ask.
We don't have a huge amount of money in there, but we have enough to probably, like, try to limit their increase to about 10% this year with a town vote.
And just as a reminder, the retirees insurance is a 60-40 split.
Right, right. But I'm just saying is if we could, yeah, if we could cover whatever their, you know, half of their 20% or whatever with the funds that we already put aside for other post-employment benefits, it seems like it might be an appropriate use of the funds, even though I know we're behind on what the target is. It seems like it might be the right thing to do if it's legal. I don't know what y'all think about it, but I'd at least like an opinion on it.
I think we're gonna have to get to a point where we have to possibly consider changing the split.
Excuse me.
Hold on.
Which
We'll
direction?
take- we'll take
Which
discussion.
direction?
Just-
Are you
Well,
saying the
yeah,
retirees take more?
I think you know what my
Oh,
split
I
would
know.
be.
I know what your split would be. Yours would be
Instead of us
You're increasing
paying
it?
to the retiree, absolutely, like, it's, I get it, it's financial, but I don't think the impact is that 10%. If we went 50-50 instead of 60-40, I don't think it's that big of on a weekly or monthly basis. I don't think the rates are that big. I want to look into it to see exactly what the numbers would be to each individual, but that's, I mean, we can't keep taking the costs and moving on. So I guess I'll do a little research and
Yeah.
Well,
I will tell you, a
so-
lot of
so-
other towns, we have to be cautious because a lot of other towns are like 70-30 to town.
Well, and before we might want to just take a look, what is, I mean, because we know a lot of them are teachers, is there anything specific in their contract for the union side?
Well, I was just thinking about that. If we change from a 60-40 to even changing it to a 50-50, that may create an impact bargaining situation.
Right.
Whereas obviously now, well, frankly, the same would be true for the police officers as well, if we have any retiree. So that's a bit of a gray zone, and frankly, I probably would have to research it, but it's a definite possibility.
So yeah, I think we need to look into it a little further.
So,
Excuse me,
Hold, we're gonna make a,
okay, I'm motion to sign the rates.
Second.
any discussion?
I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but anybody that is low enough income, they are eligible for a supplemental payment from Mass Health to help cover their premium for their health insurance. So if they were a part-time employee or, or their employee benefits weren't that big, or their income is not that high, then they would probably be eligible to have the state pick up a portion of their premium payments on a yearly basis. So you might want to check into that or suggest that to your retirees, that they try to see if they would be eligible for that benefit, because that means their portion of the premium will come back. And the town's portion of the premium will also come back.
Okay.
And actually, towards that regards, one of the things I've been talking to the Council on Aging is it's referred to as a SHINE coordinator, someone who specializes in retiree benefits that are either at the state or federal level. We currently do not have one in Brookfield, but one of the contiguous towns does have a SHINE agent. And that's one of the things that the Council on Aging is going to approach one of the contiguous towns to see if that SHINE agent might be able to spend some time here in Brookfield to be able to address some of those issues. So
That would be great.
yeah, I mean, obviously no guarantees at this point, but we generally have a very cooperative collegial atmosphere between the Brookfields. So hopefully that'll come to fruition.
Just a question, I want to give you a bit of concept of what that 20% increase will do as far as the dollar amount.
Actually, Sharon is figuring out, the treasurer is figuring that out for us, just in case. I mean, essentially, we're only talking 30 people. I don't think we're going to have to make a massive adjustment, say a warrant article at the special town meeting, but I think it will certainly be significant, and it's something to keep an eye on.
10, 20, 30,000 like that, or is it less? I mean, I'm trying to get my hands around it, just trying to figure what I remember.
Well, it's 20.
Well, take,
Yeah,
It's
to be in the tens of thousands.
$180 times, say 200 times 30, right? $6,000 just for simple math. In that
I didn't
range,
get the first part, what was it?
possibly around 6,000, or it could be, it depends what their, it could range.
it depends on which,
It could range where they're at, whether it's, I'm guessing, a family plan, single plan, and what insurance they have. So I think I would guess 6,000 to 10,000 is based on the numbers that I see here, times
That
30
would be in
people.
total for the 30.
That'd be my guess. Beth's doing some math.
yeah. So, well, if they have both, yeah.
Such a wide range, whether they
Well,
have,
no, because the thing is, what it has to do with is, if they have both the MedX and the prescription coverage, it's a total of 73 times 30 times 12. Sorry,
Roughly
I'm doing,
10.5, is
sorry,
that
I'm
what you-
doing long math there, so, about $25,000. Yeah. So it's about $25,000 for the full year, but it doesn't
That would be
start
the
till,
worst.
January.
Yeah,
Well,
that-
if
Yeah, both.
each retiree has both.
Both, yeah.
Both medical and pharmacy, right? It's basically $73 per person per month. 30 people times 73 is like 2,100 times 12 comes out to be, roughly
25?
20, yeah, roughly, yeah, actually, I probably got it wrong because I was doing too much scribbling, so we'll take out a calculator.
And just the other question was, if we are able, if we were to vote on that, the OPEB thing, I know there's enough money in there that's tender, whatever is happening of that amount, we should fund this.
Sure.
Yeah, it's 280 is what the math comes out,
And
That would be
that
the
half
worst.
of that.
yeah.
So just so I understand it, it would just be sort of like a one-time, you know, we're helping you out because you're a long-time employee, you're retiring, Brookfield, we're gonna help you out with this big increase, this year or something.
Well, and we
like
could, we could actually do it almost like a, we could do it across that and the town if we wanted to not,
that. You think
we could cover a portion of
the
it.
20% is for the people that are working now too, you think, because that's, it's gonna be that high?
It's hard to say, but my representative, when she was talking to Sharon and I, said expect a significant increase.
I know,
for
I've heard a couple of reports that the average across the country right now is an 18% increase. And a lot of big companies are absorbing it and smaller companies aren't. So we probably fall into the category of a smaller company, so we're not gonna be absorbing it, but for the retirees, I think since we have the money set aside, we can look at options both from a standpoint, and maybe it's a case of relieving both the taxpayers and the retirees. Maybe we pay a portion of it, both, right? That's why I want to check with the accountant and see what's
Yeah,
legal
yeah, no.
relative to those funds.
Yeah, I mean, as a citizen, I would be in favor of that, because I'm looking at the donor hole and everything else too right now with the same situation, so
Yeah.
anyhow. And I just, as a personal thing, I know during the 2008, 2009 downturn, the Flexcom, which is a private employer, locally, the largest manufacturer in Massachusetts, the owner, because the medical benefits, one of those years went up, I think it was by 15 or 18%. He just dipped into his pocket and said, we're going to cover you for this year to sort of help, because everything else was sort of going down.
Yeah.
You know, from the recession. So, I mean, I know it has been done, and it's, if we have the ability, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we have the ability to do that, but as Beth had indicated, whether or not utilizing OPEB funds
Is
is
legal or
legal,
not.
that's.
I don't know if
probably
it's
the question.
legal or not, but if it's legal, we might want to consider it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Discuss welcome to Brookfield sign maintenance.
So, it was brought to my attention that the town agreed to take care of the four different welcome areas and to signs to the town of Brookfield. It's my understanding that two of them are being taken care of previously by, one is a property owner, and the other one is the cemetery takes care of it. So we really only need to take care of two of them. And from my understanding, it's a matter of 15 or 20 minutes, not bi-weekly, maybe a month.
Probably not even monthly. I mean, there's gonna be some months that it has to be every month, but most of the year, it's probably maybe every other month.
So I think we should, I'm gonna make a motion that we honor the previous board that determined that we would take over the maintenance of those signs.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah. What about they're all, most of them are private property? You're gonna have to have a whole harmless agreement on that also?
I don't think it's a requirement, Mike. I don't think we need that. I don't think putting an investment in our community, taking care of the sign that says, welcome to Brookfield, and keeping that looking good. I don't,
And who's gonna do that?
I'm speaking to them.
Huh?
The highway department's gonna do it.
And you're already complaining that it takes us too long to mow here, and mow there, and mow there. Now you want us to bounce from
I
this
don't
end of
think
town
anyone,
to that
I
end
don't
of
think
town?
anyone ever said it's taken too long to do any mowing. I think the committee talked about the inefficiency of the previous highway superintendent, yes, but I don't think anyone complained about how long it was taking.
And I think it's a case of picking the right people to do the job. We have a big chunk of the year, we've got a seasonal person whose primary job is mowing and that sort of work. So we wouldn't expect necessarily the highest skilled people to be the folks trimming the bushes by the sign, but there are people on staff who, you know, it would be appropriate for them to do that work.
I just have a quick question on it also. I would wonder, is it specifically just like landscape oriented? Are we mowing, we're trimming, maybe planting a couple flowers, but what happens when the actual physical sign or the posts become in disrepair? Does that fall back on the highway as well?
I think
Is
we'll
that
cross,
something that we discussed
I-
as it happens, or-
We can cross that when
yeah,
we get there.
yeah,
Okay.
that's my perspective. You stole it right out of my mouth.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I mean, we
If
don't,
those posts are anything like the ones I put in with my fence, we've got at least a decade before we have to worry about it.
How old are those signs anyway? Were they? How old are they?
About-
I'm gonna guess 4 years, maybe?
I was gonna say closer to
Why not?
6 or 7,
Okay.
actually.
I mean, they're still in great shape as far as
Yeah.
I can see.
Yeah, no, they were put in, yeah, I would say roughly 7, maybe even 8 years ago, because I think they might have been put in before I came on the board the first time.
Were they donated to the town?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they were donated, by Art and Elizabeth J.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
so we don't need to vote on
Yeah.
it.
Thank you for getting that done for us, Mike.
I'm gonna have to bring donuts.
So do we want to make a motion to adjourn and go in executive?
Yeah, I'll make a
I
motion.
have a question about the executive session. Can you explain why you're going into executive session? You're discussing a job title, correct? That isn't a reason to go into executive session. You're discussing an employee, or you're discussing a potential solution to an employment issue, that is not a reason to go into executive session. I think that's an abuse of executive session. And it should be an open session so that the people of this town know what's going on with the highway department, and not hiding behind closed doors to do it. So, I want to know the reason why you're going into executive session. What is the exact reason that you are using as the premise to go into executive session, or you need to stay out of executive session and discuss it in open session so that people can have a discussion about the employment of what's happening with the highway department.
That's under the, so if the chair so declares, so it is.
It is not. There
So,
are
no, no,
rules.
so the exemption that we were about to vote to go into executive session under is to conduct strategy sessions in preparations for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel.
Okay, but that's, you don't have a particular person in mind, or do you? An unqualified person. You want to hire an unqualified person to put in that position that has absolutely no licenses, that has no qualifications to do the job, that can't go out, and the only thing that they can do is go out and dig a hole, because they don't have any certifications to do anything else, and you want to put them in charge. I don't see that this woman even has the capability of getting into a plow and plowing the roads in this town.
You already
I've
asked.
been fine, thank you.
Well, do you have the licenses?
Yes.
Do you have a hydraulic license?
I do.
Really? Let's see it.
I do not need to.
No.
No.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
stopping this.
I don't believe that you've been out on the
So-
job working, and she's not
Do you wanna
qualified
follow the
to
chair?
be the highway superintendent.
No.
Come down at 6 o'clock or 7
We're-
o'clock Monday, Tuesday morning, you can ride with her, and you can do the other half of the shoveling that she does.
Let's stop, guys.
But, you know, you've got, the
Stop,
highway
So-
department
please.
is such a disaster as it is. So now you've got to put somebody who's not qualified in
How
there
much time
is
again,
this?
to run our highway department.
2 minutes.
Okay, that's at least one of the 2 minutes. Do you have anything else you want to say, Ms. Washburn?
My name is Mrs. Washburn, not Ms. Washburn. I've been married for 37 years, and I have the credit You can at least call me by my surname correctly.
Okay, Mrs. Washburn.
So I want to know what the justification is that you're hiring somebody who doesn't have the qualifications to run the highway department. You had a gentleman who was running the highway department, and he quit because of the way you people treated him. And I'm not talking about you, Rich, because you weren't on the board.
Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so let's do a read-through of the highway superintendent job description.
This is the
this
state
feels
job
like,
description? Because there
no,
was a
this is the
state
town,
job
this
description.
is the town
Well,
description.
I don't think, hold on, I don't think we need to do the back and forth, to be honest.
No, I'm not doing back and forth. This is for the camera, this isn't for Mrs. Washburn.
Okay.
So let's see here. Maybe you should do the back and forth, Brad, considering people should know what's going on in this town instead of hiding behind the door. We're tired of you hiding behind the doors.
Let's see here. Description, purpose of the highway superintendent. Highway superintendent performs highly responsible supervisory and administrative work in planning, organizing, and directing all aspects of highway department operations as well as functioning as lead worker. The highway superintendent is appointed by and reports to the Board of Selectmen. The employee is required to work independently within established policies and procedures, requirements of federal, state, and local law under administrative direction of the Boards of Selectmen, and must maintain a cooperative work relationship with Water Department, Fire Department, and all other departments. Plans and directs and supervises the work of the department, including maintenance and repair of roads related to facilities, maintenance of the vehicles and equipment, provide tree maintenance support and roadside brush removal to the tree warden, snow and ice removal, and other related activities. Prepares and administers department budget, formulates policies, procedures, operations, and department plans, and assumes the responsibility for department results, evaluates programs, plans, and services of the department, formulates short and long-term plans to meet the community needs. That really wonderfully qualified person that quit didn't always do all of those things, so. Reviews all proposed projects, schedules and prioritizes projects, determines bid specifications, secures cost proposals in accordance with state law and town procurement policies and protocols, inspects progress, monitors budgets, and approves costs, works closely with contractors to assure proper fulfillment of contracts. All of that sounds familiar to you, doesn't it, Lindsay?
Sure does.
Okay, great, thanks. I'll keep going. Supervises full-time, part-time, and seasonal personnel, including recruitment of personnel, assignment of duties, performance of evaluations and supervision, payroll preparations, maintenance, and personnel records. Develops work schedule and assignments of all department employees, establishes a time frame for projects, ensures timely completion of tasks and projects, reviews the quality of work performed, ensures that the work performed complies with standards, orders necessary materials and supplies. Are those tasks that you are familiar and proficient in?
Incredibly.
Okay. Responsible for
It's
maintenance.
the secretary's job.
This is
How
in,
does it-
this
how
is,
does
this is in the
qualifications-
this is in the highway, this has been in the
Okay,
high,
but
this
she's
is,
doing it
hold
as the
on, this has
secretary,
been,
not as the highway superintendent,
okay.
let's get that straight.
Okay.
Even before she was there, the last one did that, because the highway superintendent was illiterate. Or close there too.
so, I could get into competencies and keep going, but,
No, you're.
So I think what you're,
You've
so I
gone
think,
through
so
four
I think, so I think what you're
since you've
saying,
been on the board, Beth.
so what,
Let's look at the pictures here.
so what you're
Four
saying is that
superintendents, you've
several
gone
of,
through yourself.
so what you're saying is that several of the tasks that are in here
secretary's job.
also weren't really properly conducted by the previous superintendent.
No, they weren't. Or
Okay.
the one before
Well, there you
that,
go.
or the one before that, or the one before that, and you hired them all. So what qualifies you to hire another superintendent? Because you haven't done well, your record shows 3 strikes, 4 strikes, you're out. So you're gonna hire another one, because you're incompetent and can't hire the proper person to do the job. You've been on this board for how many years now? We've gone through 4 superintendents since you've been on this board. 4. We've gone through 3 superintendents since he's been on the board. None of it makes either of you qualified to hire
Are we
anyone.
done with 2 minutes?
I would be done.
Okay.
Mr. Chafee?
Excuse me?
What do you feel about this appointment?
It's his idea.
I think there was a good part of it that I was really on board with, and I had some reservations with some of it, but I think there's a good part of it I'm on board with.
Is she out in the field actually working?
I would say yes, she is.
Or is she behind the desk?
Well, I think
Doing
she's
the
doing,
grant writer's job
she's
that
doing,
she gets paid to do?
hold on, let me answer you if you want me to answer.
Yeah.
I'd be glad to answer you. So, I've watched Lindsay to be extremely diligent. I've watched her very proficient at the inside work. And then I've also gone out on a job with her, and I've actually seen her do a really good job. And then secondly, there's some on-the-job training that's happening with Lindsay, and she's really comprehended it really well. So I didn't think that we were gonna appoint Lindsay initially, and some of it's my fault because I didn't articulate this really well in speaking to Lindsay prior to this. But I didn't think I was gonna be voting for Lindsay to do simply the highway job. I thought she was gonna continue to do the grant writing, continue to do the admin work at the highway, and I thought she was gonna do the highway supervisory position, probably the least of the three, but I thought she was gonna be more of a coordinator than a superintendent. And that's where I didn't communicate well with Lindsay. So my expectation of what she was gonna be doing was totally different than hers. So that's where the issue comes in, why I'm not 100% on board right now. However, I think I can get there. So,
But we can't have a superintendent learning on the job.
We have a
well, I think,
we have a low,
excuse me.
we have a low
Hello,
candidate.
hello. So here's the thing.
He's got a career up as a supervisor, sir.
So, Pat, I'd like to answer your question, right? So let's stay focused. So, the fact of the matter is, she can learn on the job, and she has learned on the job. When she was first hired as the admin down there, she didn't know what she knows now, right? So she's taken that from a lower level to extremely high level. When she started the grant writing, she's just started it. She's only been doing it a couple months, right? So, since July, I believe, is that correct? April, okay, so from April, right? So we can't just take someone, put them in that position and just say, okay, we expect you to have 20 years experience when you start out and you only have 3 months training, right? And only a couple months. But I think Lindsay will get there. She's good at motivating the help that's down there. I've seen more work get done in the last few weeks than I've seen get happen in 4 months with the previous highway boss.
Again, that goes back to the people that are hiring the person that was working.
You know
there.
what? You know what?
They don't have the qualifications to hire someone,
Well,
or they do a poor job.
Well, I will say the previous highway boss had all the qualifications, but he had no motivation. So no one could have known that he didn't have the motivation ahead of time. He did have the qualifications, but he was not motivated, and he did not do what he was supposed to do.
My understanding is that Barry, who the
Well,
last county worked for, couldn't get rid of him fast enough.
That I don't know.
I think we have to watch what we're saying.
Yeah.
So Lindsay does have quite a bit of the licensing. She doesn't have all of it. She's agreeing to get it, and we're gonna talk about whether she gets the licenses, how her pay grade will rise as a result of it. So some of it is on-the-job training, but we're not gonna pay Lindsay what we were paying a previous highway superintendent either, or at least that's not my position.
Are you going to have a probationary period?
This is only an interim, because this is only an
It's
interim.
only interim position.
We're talking about hiring for an interim, right? Not the full-time. So some of it's unknown. We're gonna take a chance. We've never done this before.
Are you
This will be the
advertising for a
first-
new superintendent?
I'm sorry.
You fired the old superintendent 3 weeks ago. What advertising have you done to fill the position?
We have not done any advertising
Why?
as of yet.
If she's an interim, why haven't you started advertising?
We're not at that point. We're just now kind of in the infancy stage of this, right? So we're gonna give Lindsay, we're in negotiations to give Lindsay a shot, rather than try to get someone for the winter months. Pretty much Lindsay ran the highway department last winter with with Mike Duval. The two of them pretty much did the bulk of the work. They did have an interim. He was out for a couple of the snowstorms. And I think they did a great job without him. So it's my position to give her a shot.
But you're saying interim.
That's correct. And then if we, and it's, I believe it's gonna be for 3 months, but we haven't decided that. And then, if it works out, we'll probably try to hire from within, but we'll advertise at that point. And if she's the best qualified person at the time, then Lindsay will get the job. But if she's not the best qualified, she probably won't end up with the job.
Won't her not being trained in certain machines and so on and so forth slow the highway down to begin with? And
It's
the
gonna
work
be-
that they need to be, the work that they have to get done?
It's gonna be challenging, I'll admit that. I've been meeting with Lindsay regularly to go over tasks, and she's handled them really well.
Yep. And I think also you've got a lot of resources with your highway committee relative to
That's
trading
correct.
on the equipment, because we've got a number of licensed
I mean,
operators.
you're
out
right. I
there.
mean, the fact of the matter is, you don't go, just because you have a hydraulic license, you don't go to a skilled, from obtaining the hydraulic license to a skilled operator in 2 weeks, right? So it's gonna take a long time. But there are employees there that do operate as well. So we have 2 young guys there, as well as Mike Duval. They've been able to make it work for the last year. So we're not, this is trial and error at this point.
Well, it's a trial and error at the townspeople's expense, Rich. At the townspeople's expense.
The problem is, we didn't have any real qualified applicants.
And for 9 months, we had that position posted without a single,
I mean,
Truly
I'm sure in
qualified
your
applicant.
business, you can see a shortfall of employees, right?
Absolutely.
So the
Right.
town of Brookfield employees are no different. Hiring someone to replace the existing highway superintendent is difficult at best. So,
But you have to hire somebody with at least some knowledge.
I've seen this,
How to do
I've
the
seen
job.
Lindsay motivate the 3 employees
But that's not
more
enough.
in 3 weeks, and I've seen more work get done in 3 weeks than I did the entire time the previous
But
highway
we-
superintendent was there.
Our superintendent is a working superintendent.
That's correct.
And every superintendent that we've had in the past, from Alan Martell, has been a working superintendent that gets in the machines and gets the work done.
Let me just say
We're not
this.
doing the administrative job as well, because we've had an administrative person in there for how many years now? Cindy did it for how many years before?
The
she
whole
did
time
it?
Herbie was there, Cindy did. But
That's right.
here's my perspective. Last year, before I was a selectman, I saw what was going on down the highway department on a daily basis. I'd stop in, I'd visit. The people there are my friends. I would spend an awful lot of time there. I called and asked the previous selectman to support Lindsay and put Lindsay in the interim position last year, right? It was a totally new trial and error, right? I don't know of anywhere where we've hired the admin person to go to the coordinator or superintendent. But I had that much confidence in Lindsay to call the selectmen to ask that they support her. Turns out, she wasn't ready for it at the time. For lack of a better word, she kind of chickened out and didn't want the responsibility, right? Sorry if that offends you, but that's, am I accurate in saying that? Yeah, so, but now she's willing to take on the task, and I'm willing to give her a shot. That's my perspective.
Except you're doing it at the cost of the townspeople, our tax dollars.
But-
And that's not fair to the tax people in this town.
Well, what is fair to the tax people is we're gonna hire her at a lesser rate than we would have to pay a superintendent with years of experience, right? She's extremely bright. She's gonna catch on really quick. We're not gonna replace her as an admin. So when you take I'm gonna
overall
throw
cost
her.
at a town, we're actually gonna be saving them money, so.
I'm gonna take the number of roughly 25,000 she made as the admin. We're not gonna pay that any longer, and we're gonna put that towards the supervisory position, and I think it's gonna be a pretty good savings to the town. And if it wasn't, I wouldn't be pushing for it. But not only that, anytime you go down to that highway department while she's there, you'll be greeted different than you ever have in the past if you've ever been there. It's an entirely new atmosphere.
I think I've
The
been
mora-
down there twice.
the morale is high, and the morale is really high, and she will welcome you in, show you around. She's a great asset to the town. That's all I have.
Well, I would like to see that the motion, if you're going to hire her, that the motion be made that it's an interim and have a specific month period on it. If
Well,
it's going to be
so
3 months, if it's going to be 5 months.
It needs to be a minimum, it needs to be a minimum snow season. So fundamentally, it would be a 6-month period to April is
I would be
is
good
the
with that.
shortest term that I would vote because,
Yeah, I don't want to change it up midstream.
No, I agree with that if you're going to do it. You can't do it in the middle of winter. You can't do it in the middle of snow season.
Yeah.
Just for the simple fact is, you've got, what you have in place needs to stay in place. And I get that, but there should be a limit on it as an interim. And not just say, well, they're an interim with no end date.
Yeah, that was never even an option.
This is Brookfield.
Well, from my perspective.
All right. Did you make the,
I did not make it as a
I
motion.
have a question, Greg. Who's gonna be doing the secretarial work at the highway? Who's gonna be doing the grant writing at the highway? And how many hours is Lindsay gonna be working, and how many days?
we don't really have it ironed out yet.
You want me
So
to,
that's,
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
want me to go or you want me to? Go ahead.
Have you worked that out yet, or?
so we've had a bunch of discussions.
Mhm.
I think what we've been looking at was that Lindsay would be working 40 hours-ish, or close to 40 hours. Most of the grant writing, we're looking at doing a temporary backfill through like a like a professional grant writer, where they write themselves into the grants. And so it would hopefully be largely self-funding. We may or may not be able to get away with that for outside the highway grants. The highway grants and the highway paperwork and documentation, Lindsay indicated she's got a sufficient handle on that she feels she can do both the supervisory work and the office work without that being too much, so long as she doesn't have to do the other department's grant writing. So Ron's looking into some options relative to how we would cover that work and manage those projects. But her focus would be the highway, but the completeness of the highway, both the back office and the, the work out on the road with the guys.
How would you separate the pay on those two positions?
So it won't be two positions. She'll be the interim superintendent, and the administrative work, as I was reading, that technically speaking, the superintendent is supposed to be able to do everything that the administrative assistant is doing, okay? It's been one of those areas where the way that our job descriptions have been of grant activity and procurement activity going on, so I would say what we got was more available hours, and if you remember, I think we only had like 12 to 16 hours in that highway secretary role for a number of years.
But that got bumped up over the years.
It got bumped up over the
As
years,
it is
but,
right now.
but part of that is
Right.
because the state requirements have gotten bumped up too. There's a crap ton more paperwork today than there was a decade ago.
So-
Even chapter 90 is like an absolute goat rodeo compared to what it was a decade ago.
Right, and I understand all that, because that's why we had a secretary for
Right.
all those hours. Now you're saying we don't really need a secretary. We
So-
only need it for a few hours. It's not making, it's
Well,
not adding up.
no, what I'm saying is that,
It's not adding up.
what do you think that the breakout will be, Lindsay? Probably what's 12 to 16 hours on paperwork and the rest will be on superintendent work?
So over the past 4 weeks, I would say it's roughly been 50-50, quite honestly.
Okay.
Some days more and more less, but
depends on when,
genuinely, like, this week is a payroll submission and payables. So I did spend most of the day today in the office and then, most of the morning out in the field and then the rest of the day in the office, making sure all the paperwork, emails, phone calls, all that stuff is taken care of. So it's a fine balance. And to answer Mr. Holcraft's question, like, you also haven't had somebody
guys, a
Yep.
working superintendent is supposed to be a working superintendent. And that's why we had a secretary in the highway department from the get-go.
Right.
Now you're telling me it's gonna be 50-50?
Yeah,
Okay, now you're gonna have to, now the pay's gonna have to be, how are you gonna do that now?
I would say it's also a different project flow.
Yeah.
In the last few years, I would say paperwork intensive. Right now, Gay Road, if that comes through.
yeah.
How much at Kimball Street are you,
So I'm involved in Kimball Street
because of the grants?
on the grant writer side,
Right.
and also on the highway side. So a little bit of both, but, for the most part, CMRPC is handling
Right.
the grant management for that, so it's minimal on my end for that. We were on site twice with the engineers for, Kimball Street to start the design process, but it's pretty minimal.
Yeah. So,
What about the cost of the licenses? Are we gonna help her out on that? Is the town gonna help her out?
so she already has all of her hoisting licenses. Our, the
Well, that's
discussion-
not,
I
no,
think she has-
what do you have for hoisting? Let's get that out when you,
I'm missing one specialty, or I guess if you wanted me to get my catch basin, there would be two specialty courses that I am qualified to operate over.
so what do you have for, what do you have currently for a hydraulic
That
license?
should be,
Oh, 2B?
yes.
So in the job description, it asks for a 1C, 1B, 2B, and a 4B, 4D, 4E, and 4G. I don't know why we would need that requirement.
Correct. I think-
However,
Sorry.
the one thing that I do know, like, the loaders, you have a hydraulic license to run them
Yeah,
without any dirt in the bucket. Once you go to dirt in the bucket, then it gets it into the weight, gets you over where it would be
I mean,
required.
I
So,
know how it works, I'm working on it. My 4G, I'm gonna go take my 4G test, so at least I can do that.
what, Lindsay? I'm not picking on you in any way. I just want to make it clear, so I want to be above board, so that's all. So then the next license that you would be required to get is a Class B license for the trucks, and that's something you're willing to do. All right, does that answer what you're looking for, Pat?
Well, his question was, are we planning on helping with?
Wasn't my question.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was, his question was, is the town planning on assisting Lindsay in the pursuit of her licenses, was his question. And my answer would be is that we have discussed it.
We're not in full agreement on it.
Yeah,
Is there much of a cost to get the, how many licenses does Lindsay need right to get right now?
She needs a Class B license effectively, and that, other than that, she would be off and running. So did you check on the cost? You threw a number at us last week, but is it different, the same, is it?
I haven't looked into it anymore.
Oh, okay, all right, sorry to put you on the spot, I thought.
It's
so,
about $5,000.
yeah, it's roughly $5,000. It's about $5,000, there's a couple of schools in state where you can get them done in about, when you can get the school done in between 6 and 8 weeks.
So there's weekend classes you can take, there's during the week, it all depends what your schedule is.
Now, how many licenses does Lindsay need right now, currently, right now?
One, Class B license.
And that's to do what?
Drive a heavy truck over 26,000 pounds. She's capable, she has a medical card, she has a hydraulic license, and she's able to drive any one of the 350, 450, or 550 trucks that are down there,
And the backhoe.
and the back,
When?
whenever she chooses.
Okay, and what about the rest of the hydraulic licenses?
There would be additional required if she was to run the catch basin truck or the mowing truck, but we have it.
Side mower? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep. But we do already have a couple licensed people on both of those, so she would need to get those licenses, but it's not stopping the department from doing anything.
Right now, right.
Currently, correct.
Right. But she's gonna need to get it if she moves on, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you're gonna discuss the funds for that and the hours, how many hours she's gonna be doing secretary work versus.
I don't think it matters
so I
how
don't
many
thi- I don't
hours,
think we're
she's gonna
I
get the
don't
job
think-
done.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
if this week it takes 12 hours, fine. If next week it takes 32 hours, she's gonna get the job done, and she's proficient with her time.
when you say get the job done, are you talking the secretarial work, or are you talking?
So,
Whatever it takes, Dave, whatever they throw at
Whatever
her,
the
she's gonna
priority
get it
needs to
done.
be.
That I will guarantee.
Okay. But I'm just saying, in the past, we've had a set hours for someone to be in that office, no matter how busy it was. We had like 24 hours or whatever it was. What is it, what was it, 24?
Yes.
Yeah. That's 3 days now, so now you're saying,
But even in those 3 days, Dave, back when she did those 3 days,
She wasn't
24
in
hours
the
a week,
office the whole time.
she went and got a medical card. She ran the trucks back then. She wasn't even her job description. She stepped up to do what she needed to do to help Brookfield. And I firmly believe it's now time for Brookfield to step up and give Lindsay a shot.
yeah, I mean, she,
oh, I'm not saying not to give her a shot, I'm just trying to let the townspeople know
Yeah.
where this highway department is going, because you gotta admit, this past year has been terrible down at that highway department. Stuff just wasn't getting done. I mean, these 2 guys you had here, I don't even, did you even call to see if Pete was qualified for that? Did you even
so
call?
I called his references, and I've had a couple people challenge me on this. When you're hiring somebody,
Yeah.
unless they put down their current employer, you run into a whole bunch of issues if you try to call them directly. So that you can do, verifications that they're working there and what their dates of employment are, but they won't release any other information if you call
Right,
them.
so basically, when you checked on Pete, we didn't even know
So I
if he
called,
was qualified or not qualified.
well, I called the references that he had, which included a selectman from where he had been on, when he had been a highway employee.
That was before,
And,
right?
and one, and the town prior to the one that he was in as the water department.
Mhm.
So, and then the police chief from the town that he was in. So, so he gave me one of the other department heads, he gave me and 2 prior selectmen as his references. So the only town I didn't check with was the one that he was in at the time that we hired him.
Yeah, and that was the important.
Well,
And look what we got.
There's water under the bridge.
yeah.
Right, it's water under the bridge, but we don't wanna make the same mistake, because we've already made this mistake twice. already.
Yeah, but you know what,
So don't say, oh, it's passe, we're gonna forget.
I think one of the things that people are missing,
No, that's right, and I'm backing her, but I'm just wanna make sure that
Right.
we don't, you say water under the bridge, Jeff, but no, we're gonna make sure that we're gonna be going forward. Like Mrs. Washburn, that's what she's shooting for too, so we don't get into another situation.
I perfectly agree with that. If I could just make one comment, I do appreciate the veracity of the commentary and the professionalism that's been, Rich, I applaud you for being very specific in your reasons. I think that will go a long way towards reassuring the town. And again, the time that just on my advisory committee work for 7 years, would always look for transparency. And I think the fact that we're having this discussion, even though it's been getting heated or whatever, the fact that you had all of the facts that you wanted to present in front of you and expressed them very succinctly and logically and went back and forth, I think it is very good to have public record of it so that people will look in the future that, we went through the process properly and that things were done correctly, so we don't have another water under the bridge. Everyone has said,
No, I get it.
everyone has said that this is a gamble because, Lindsay is young, doesn't have all the training, but again, that's what we're trying to do is to get her the training. She's confident at this point, will become more confident, and that's what we need. So I applaud everyone for at least having this continued discussion, and thank you. So I didn't understand the whole dynamics, and I've been looking at it for, last time I talked to her, I said, I don't quite understand what's going on down there, but I know there's something off, so.
Mr.
The
Duval,
other thing is, the last 2 superintendents we had, one was an interim, and one was just looking to ride out another few years and leave. Now we've got somebody younger that could stay for 20 or 30 years. It makes a big difference on
They don't-
things that go on.
I think tonight's our last night, Mike.
Sure.
We're just looking for transparency. We're just don't not hiding behind doors like that. Just this is very honesty. You're up to front, and I like that. That's what I want to hear.
And I applaud this board for having open commentary, Mr. Shafee brought to you guys, and you all voted to let the townspeople have a say. And all the questions and the answers we got here, the rest of the people in town will know what's going on in the highway, because they didn't know.
Yeah, but I'll put money that we'll get an open meeting law violation, because they'll say that we didn't have enough notes about what we were gonna discuss relative to the highway
And
superintendent,
that's all relative.
so.
We're
Well, Dave, are you
safe.
sure we won't get one?
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
You won't get
Did
one
we,
from
did
me.
we have enough details on the agenda to cover this?
I
Well, that
think
would
we're
be a
safe
change.
because we're responding to questions from the public.
Yeah, no, that,
Well, that'll be our response when it comes in.
And you can do that, you can get
Yeah.
response.
So,
One other point I want to make is that it just appears to me that Rich is uniquely qualified because this is construction and is your business, so you have the facts, you're able to present them under pressure, and, you know, that's wonderful. I mean, that's what adds to the transparency, and, you know, that's just, that, you know.
The only
I
thing
would
I'm
expect-
doing, the
I
only
would
thing,
expect you to- well,
yeah.
you to do that,
Yeah.
as far as, you know, bet it's something with corporations, or you would insurance, I mean, just, you know, express it, whatever.
but you know what, Jeff? Really, all I'm doing is pointing out what I've observed, right? So Lindsay's done a great job. So it was pretty easy for me to say what I said because I observed.
But you have the knowledge to back that up,
Yeah.
to respond to the questions from the audience.
Yes,
So,
yeah. Well, thank you.
It's a positive. I mean, I don't mean to toot your horn, but it's just apparent that
Yeah.
I hadn't found anyone who knows about the highway department, that's just you, so, right.
okay, good.
okay, so. I guess my question is. Okay, so let's put it this way. I'm gonna put a motion on the floor, and then we can decide whether to take it or not. And I'm sure it'll generate some discussion. Or do we want to go into executive session for negotiations with the individual?
I know Lindsay would prefer us go into negotiations, right, in behind closed doors, but, you know, I have mixed feelings about it. I want to honor her position, but I also think it's important that the people know what it's about. So I'm gonna let you guys weigh in. What do you say, Brad?
I think it's up to her decision to whether she wants to do
Yeah.
it, because we are talking her salary and her,
Public record.
Well, no,
And
we
then
will,
we can
we would,
request it
well,
after.
so here's the thing, is we can reconvene into open and discuss the outcome, but she had wanted to have dialogue in executive session, and that's perfectly legitimate to have negotiations without 18 people in the room.
This is a town position, why is there a negotiation in the first place? I mean, there was a grade and a step for her, so I don't understand why there's
No,
a
there's not.
negotiation on the amount of what you're gonna pay her. It shouldn't be a negotiation.
Well-
She's not a union employee.
Well-
She would be a supervisor, she's
Yeah,
not
I
a
mean,
union
we,
employee.
we want Lindsay to be our employee, and she has a figure in her head, and each one of us, the number differs, so.
Either she accepts it or she doesn't, but you can't go into negotiation with someone as an employee. That sets a bad precedent for the town people. Because anybody that's an employee of the town, or wants to become an employee of the town, I'm gonna negotiate my salary.
well, this is
This
for,
isn't a private
It's for
sector.
department, it's for department heads, most of our department heads, that is the standard process, is that there is a negotiation. As long as it falls within the scope of the step and grade relative to the person's, whatever they're bringing to the table.
Well, she wouldn't even come close to what she's
Well,
bringing
and
to
that's-
the table as stepping grade, so,
Yep.
I mean, you know. what
So
is
you can
our
wait until we
stepping
come out
grade
of
now?
executive session and you can hear what the results are.
You know,
I think that's fine.
what I'm asking is what would be the second rate for a superintendent?
Can I ask one question?
You're all sitting here ready to negotiate the amount of money you're gonna pay her, but none of
So
you
we
have
do-
that
we-
answer?
we have
They're
a-
on the personnel,
What's that?
so you guys are on the
We actually
personnel.
don't, well, the problem
Yeah.
is we actually don't have a wage chart anymore.
Mhm.
No.
We don't have an active wage chart anymore. We haven't had a wage chart in probably a decade.
Wow.
So, they actually took step and grade references out of the personnel bylaw because we aren't maintaining. And that was at a town meeting vote, I think probably half a dozen years ago. We don't actually have a wage chart. So no, we don't have one. What we have and what we've been using is wage comparisons. We've got a wage comparison relative to what we were paying the previous superintendents, and what we were paying our grant writer, our prior grant writer, and then Lindsay is what she's currently getting paid as the highway administrator and grant writer. And those numbers are public records. So, at her current position, Lindsay makes $29 an hour. Our prior grant writer was making $32.28 an hour. Ryan was making, although we have the wrong number of hours per week, 'cause nobody works 80 hours a week, was 35.22 per hour. And Pete, because he came in with water certifications as well, came in at $41 an hour. You did was it you that did a wage survey, like an informal wage survey, and the average was
Lindsay
like
did it.
44 an hour? Okay. In the surrounding area.
But she's not like the other area.
Well, so, understood, which is one of the reasons why we're doing some negotiation about what it would look like over what period of time based on what qualifications. So if you want to wait until we're done with the executive session, we'll reconvene into open session and you can get the results.
Ron, you haven't said much tonight about this whole subject. What do you have to say about all this?
Specifically with regards to which of the topics.
Just in general. Just in general.
He serves at the will of the board, is what he says.
One of the things that I think is undeniable by anyone is over the last 3 to 4 weeks where Lindsay has taken control down at the highway department, it's been literally night and day. The work that's being done is noticed by the citizens, by the town employees, and I think also by the highway department employees. I think the respect that they have for Lindsay shows up in the work that they're doing. They're going above and beyond. They're all giving it 110%, and Lindsay is as well. So I mean that's certainly a feather in Lindsay's cap, but also for the whole highway department.
And the town.
Absolutely, absolutely. And my personal feeling is when you have an employee that has demonstrated abilities, you do as much as you possibly can to keep them, especially in the environment that we currently find ourselves. As was mentioned previously, the previous, before the last highway superintendent was hired, that job posting was out there for 9 months, and the person that was hired obviously didn't pan out.
And basically the recruiter said that we were smoking crack for the amount of money that we were asking or offering, to expect to find anybody that had both planning capability and was willing to pick up a shovel. Because you don't find that in the same person for the money that Brookfield was willing to offer. In fact, you just don't find it in the same person anymore, for the most part.
Yeah, we found out the last two guys you had.
Yep, for sure.
And you were paying the intern before $44 an hour. He did nothing but sit in the office.
Yeah, that's basically,
He was there just hanging out and watching Lindsay work, for crying out loud.
I'm painfully aware of that.
Like, seriously, until April and see if she gets her qualifications and she's doing a good job to that point. Gives her time to prove herself, I guess.
When we get to that point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I have one question. We don't pay for licenses for any of our other highway employees.
But we do have a town bylaw that does enable us and empower us to pay for training if there's sufficient funds in the department budget.
$5,000 for CDL Class B training is a lot of money for the town to expend.
That's why we're not getting people applying for jobs that just have their license and drive truck because it costs them $5,000 to $8,000. That's why you're not gonna find anybody to come knock at the door for $22 an hour.
But nobody paid for my college.
We're not paying someone $22
Okay,
an
so
hour.
I mean, that's
We want to
not,
get back.
that's,
That's not our
if she
fault.
wants to do the job,
Okay,
then
cut
she
it-
should
cut it
pay
back.
for her licenses. The town shouldn't have to
Right.
So-
pay
It
for
goes
those
through us.
licenses.
It goes through
Let's,
us. We don't.
Yeah, I can't go back and forth.
It's not right to ask the townspeople to pay for someone who doesn't have the qualifications, for us to pay to give her the qualifications to do a job that she's not done before.
Here's the deal, Pat. Here's the deal. We need to thread a needle here because we don't really have, we didn't have other applicants. Lindsay's an applicant, right? And she's gonna get the job done for us. I believe she's
But
gonna
you
get it
didn't
done.
advertise it, either.
We didn't yet. We didn't
No,
yet, but we
no.
may. We will before she's full-time. We will advertise. But she's a good employee and we don't wanna lose her.
I'm not saying that she's not. She probably is a very good administrative assistant down at the highway department.
But not only that, but when I,
you
but,
have not advertised.
but she's also
whatsoever.
done manual labor that I've witnessed as well. So,
But
but
it's
you're right.
not in her job description, is it?
Which one?
The manual labor. It's not part of the
The
job. of
superintendent-
administrative-
it-
But it's
sure.
not part of the job of her administrative assistant job.
No, it's not,
So
but
she's doing that on her own.
that's correct.
Okay, and the reason she's doing that on her own, let's not beat around the bush, is so that she can apply for the superintendent's job.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, but she doesn't have the qualifications for the job. You
Not
want
all
it-
of them.
You want the townspeople to pay to train her, you want the townspeople to pay her.
We want the townspeople to invest in the future of our highway department. And you know what? There's
Then
good money
advertise
and
it.
there's good money and bad money. You know what? I'd be happy to advertise in parallel, right, and still appoint her as interim. And I'm gonna tell you why, is that if we don't show that we're willing to invest in our employees
I've heard that story
long-term.
before.
Okay, yeah, and you know what? You just heard it, and you know what? I'm glad you said that. You just heard it. Chief said the last person that we sent to the police academy we've had for 5 years. Was that a good investment or a bad investment, Pat?
Did we pay for that, or?
We, nope. So the,
Yes, we did pay.
well, yeah, the town pays for it, came out of the police budget, okay? We spent however much money, I don't even know how much money it is anymore, okay? But we paid the money for the police academy and paid for the entire time that that individual was at the academy, okay? And we've had 5 years of service from that individual, okay?
That's one case.
Okay.
One.
Understood. The other person, we paid for it, we only got 2 years, okay? But here's the thing, it's the same kind of concept. Right now, in this job market, with the fact that people want to go play on TikTok and become influencers and like make money sitting in their living room, okay? They don't want to drive truck, they don't want to drive a shovel, they don't want to drive nothing at this point, okay? So, you know what, if we have somebody already in the seat that we can make the investment in, who's already gone and plowed a couple of seasons with us, okay? Because you know what, you're right, it's not in the highway administrative assistant's job description to do any of that work.
No, it's not.
Okay,
And it's a
Cindy-
liability to the town that she did it.
No, not if she's.
Yes, it is.
Not if she's in a one-ton,
No.
not if she's in a one-ton.
Because our workers' comp will not cover her because she is not classified as a laborer for the town of Brookfield, which means if she got injured in the town of Brookfield, working as a laborer, workers' comp would not cover her.
No, she's a town
Because she,
employee.
no, they will not. I do it for a living, sir, don't tell me.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
they will not cover her because she is doing a job that she is not classified to do. Okay, learn your workers' comp laws, because that is the law of workers' comp. If I went out and jumped in a dumpster, my classification as a job is an office worker. If I go out and dump in a dumpster, to pack a dumpster down and I get injured, they're not gonna cover me, because it's not part of my job. I shouldn't be doing that, because it's not part of my job. If she did it on her own, she becomes a liability to the town. And the town's gonna have to pay her out of the town's budget, not out of.
So as the
workers'
interim
comp.
superintendent, she'll be covered, so that won't be a problem. So
But
that's great. It
before, she
solves two
wasn't
problems.
covered, and you allowed it to happen, which means that you allowed your supervisor to let her do it.
As a snowplow driver, I was a seasonal snowplow
Plow driver.
operator. So
Yeah.
I was in fact
Yeah,
covered.
so they were paying her as an emergency operator at the time, so I guess that would cover
But
that
not when
issue.
she was digging holes.
I never have once thought of all.
So,
We don't have-
So is this fees for this license gonna come out of the budget of the highway department?
that's,
Like the
that's
police
what,
department.
that's what my recommendation would be, is it would come out of the highway department budget, correct? Out of their standard expense budget. And we do send people to classes, we do send the guys to training out of that budget as well. So if they need to get a renewal on something, that is the same budget that we would hit. We send them the chainsaw training or whatever, that gets paid out of that. Okay, is it a bigger, more expensive training? Absolutely, but it's gonna come out of the money that's already allocated to the highway department.
And that takes away from other things that they need to do in the town, like fix the roads, fix the potholes, and some of the other stuff. So you take $5,000 out of their budget is
Transfer
going
from
to-
wages? Yeah, okay. Yeah, and actually Ron is whispering that they're planning on doing it as a transfer from wages, so no, it won't take away from the materials and such that they have for doing the budget, because with the fact that we won't be paying for the administrative assistant as well as the superintendent, there'll be an excess in wages that will allow for that to get covered.
Well, you're talking how many weeks out of a paycheck? How many weeks are we talking between now and June? April.
It doesn't matter. The town accountant has the ability under Chapter 43, I believe, to transfer wages within the department from a wage account to an expense account, or in this case, a training account.
That's not what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you is, if she's going to get paid, say, $30 an hour, and we were paying the other gentleman 41, that's $11 an hour on a weekly basis, times 40 hours a week, correct?
Correct.
So, and from now until April, how many weeks are
Yeah,
there?
but-
Because it doesn't add up to 5,000.
But we're not paying her original salary either, so you're only doing half the math there.
Yeah, the $29 an hour that Lindsay would have been making as the hybrid grant writer, highway administrator will no longer be expended.
But you still have to pay the grant writer that you're gonna have to hire. So there is money that has to go towards the grant writer.
There's several different ways in which you can compensate grant writers, and that's actually part of the discussion that we will be having with the board.
Which means you short the grant.
No, there is a line item in the budget because my role had not been created yet. So actually, the grant writer salary line item has not been touched in FY '25, and it remains untouched to this day.
That's correct, because the hybrid actually occurred after town meeting, the designation hybrid position.
In addition, I just want to point out, when the vacancy for the superintendent role was being advertised and they hired an outside company to try to, or headhunting company, I guess it's called, those expenses equaled more than what it would cost to put me into a commercial driver training school. I just wanted to throw that out there.
But they hired some.
Who's no longer with us.
Right,
Yeah, and actually the recruiter didn't even find anybody, so it didn't help us any.
right.
Well, that's because you guys wanted to hire a recruiter to find someone to be the interim. When instead of doing it yourself, we spent, what, $3,000 we spent. And that was a complete waste of money.
Yeah, but they can't decide what the applicants are gonna be. They did that in a great effort to try to broaden the audience, so to speak, for the job. They were looking to expand who they got as applicants, and
But
it didn't pan out, but that wasn't.
You don't know that in
Yeah,
advance.
but it didn't work.
So, lesson learned. We won't do it again, Dave, but I can tell you that it was done with good intent. But we won't do it again, right? We hadn't tried it before. We hadn't been successful the other way. We had to try something new. So, and it didn't work. But I'll be the first person to tell you that it didn't work and we ain't doing it again.
Okay, good. Glad to
So,
hear
all right?
I just wanted to bring that point up, that's all.
So-
That's off of what Lindsay said.
So, I'm still gonna make a motion so that we can have a discussion that's productive. And then if you wanna stick around outside the closed door and come back in, we can reconvene and open if you want. So I'm gonna make a motion to go to executive session under exemption 2 to conduct strategy sessions and preparations for negotiations with non-union personnel, or conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, reference to the interim highway superintendent, and I guess we'll reconvene to open. So, and Jacob, I'm sorry to hold you hostage,
What's your estimated time?
if the chair so declares. We have no idea. Could be 5 minutes, it could be 30 minutes,
I
could be
figured
an
I'd
hour.
ask that. That's what I figured you'd give me for an answer.
Okay, it depends.
I figured I'd ask.
It's the most honest answer I can give you. It depends.
It was more than an hour last time.
Yeah, it was more than an hour last time, but
All right, thank you for having this open session, it was good.
Yes, thank you.
Very good.
Second, or do you want a second?
you
Lindsay,
can second your own.
Lindsay, you dropped something on.
It
I didn't-
should
I
be
think we
by
need to do a
roll
roll
call.
I
call.
did not second.
No, he seconded
So
it.
Brad second, okay.
Okay. Coughlin, aye.
Kudowski, aye.
You can vote no, but if you're outvoted, you can either stay or go for the session. It's up to you.
Well, I can stay if I vote no, but,
Yeah.
Chafee, aye.
At least I didn't say we were gonna close out from executive session. We're gonna go back to open.
picked up another one along the way. Like, God, it's funny.
Because somebody has to, right, Mike?
Why not? You know, I'm here to help.
Uh-oh, you're a government employee, you just said you're here to help, that's not good.
I'm from the government, I'm here to help.
Michael, did you sign in yet?
No.
He's not, he won't either.
All right.
About the secretarial work, who's gonna be doing that? Now, she's gonna be doing that at the same rate?
Yep.
That's a $6 increase? Oh, you said 20, which was it, 24 or 29?
24 when she was
$6
straight,
increase. Yeah.
Straight what?
a straight highway administrative assistant back in fiscal year 23,
1, 2.
actually. Well, no, 4,
It- she would-
24.
She would still manage the highway grants,
Yeah.
The
I mean, she'd
29
still
is
be
the
doing-
hybrid position.
yeah.
which is the bulk of the grants.
Yeah, the bulk of the grants is the highway grants anyway,
Agreed.
so.
Yes.
Well, I'm not, she was a grant writer as well, but I'm talking about as a secretary. Now, so that's $11 increase for her to continue doing that work as, also as a highway superintendent. Do I have that straight?
Absolutely, that's correct.
So she's gonna get an $11 an hour increase to do the secretarial work.
Or you could look at it this way, we're gonna be getting a highway superintendent and administrator for, let's see here, it's $41 plus $29 an hour, comes out to, let's do the math this way, so we've got, so basically, we are going to be paying total $35 an hour less for the critical work prioritized of both positions getting done. Because between what the highway superintendent was being paid and what she was being paid, we were paying $70 an hour the hours that they were working. She's gonna get paid $35 an hour to also use the really good judgment that she's already shown to prioritize what of the administrative and highway superintendent supervisory work needs to get done. And the town's gonna be saving $35 an hour.
It's not actually accurate because
No, that's
based on the hours she worked
Okay.
part-time, so, but
Let
we
me
don't,
take
we
out a
don't need
calc-
to.
let me
no,
take out a
I
calculator
don't think
if
we
you
need
want
to go that way, but I do think, I couldn't get to the $35 an hour. I was outvoted. I was at $30 an hour. And I don't have a single problem paying Lindsay from the 24 or the 29 hybrid position, the 24 just secretarial at the highway, or at the hybrid position at 29, based on both of those positions were part-time. She never was a full-time employee prior to now. However, I don't have any issue with that. I don't mind combining the two, and I think we'd be getting a good deal. I couldn't agree with the other two selectmen on the price. I was at $30 an hour. Based on completion of licenses and things, I could have gone up higher every 3 months, but I could not get to the $35 an hour that Beth and Brad did.
But Beth, you're not doing apples with apples, you're mixing, you're going back, you're saying 2 positions are gonna be done by 1. But the supervisor before, as a highway supervisor, is working 40 hours in the field.
I'm doing the math right now for
And
you.
we had a secretary, I call it a secretary, was doing her position. So now you're telling me
You know what? That's the decision. Do you know what? You know
We
what?
got 1 person now.
You know what, that's great, but
It
you
is
know,
great.
we have one person, whether we, right now, and we're gonna put out a posting for a permanent highway superintendent, but right now, we have one person regardless of how we divide it. I would rather have that one person showing up to work with their whole self and feeling that the town is valuing them appropriately for the prioritization and the work that they're putting into it, and I think it's an investment. I'm gonna go back to the case, it's not just a cost, it's an investment, okay?
I get that. But
Okay.
you're still giving, to do the secretarial work is an
Are we at 2 minutes yet?
increase per hour.
Are we at 2 minutes yet?
Most likely.
Okay.
That's my question.
I have a question.
That's a huge increase, Beth.
Go ahead.
You're saying that you're getting 40 hours a week per month, but she was working how many hours as an administrative assistant?
24,
24.
yep.
So she's saying that she can do that job in 20 hours now, which means that she'll be working 20 hours as a highway superintendent, correct?
16 roughly, if it was 24.
Well, she said.
It was
herself-
50-50. She said it was 50-50.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
And a lot of times, if she was working 24, she either flagged or did other things for the highway department, so.
So it was 50-50, correct? So, and you're saying that you're going to save money, for the simple fact is that you're not going to be paying that $35 an hour difference. So, but you're also losing production of that 20 hours a week for the highway superintendent. So if she's doing 20 hours a week in the office and 20 hours a week out in the field, that means that you have 20 hours a week that you're not getting productivity out in the field that you were getting before. How are you going to make that time up? Because it has to be made up. I mean, if she's out there and there's a snowstorm, she's gonna be out on the plows. You're gonna end up paying her overtime because she has to get her paperwork done. Guys have to get paid, phones have to be answered, the emails have to be answered, bills have to be submitted for the budget. So how are all those jobs going to get done if she's out plowing for 30 hours? How are you gonna make up that time? How are you gonna get that difference done?
I don't think she would be required to work that many hours plowing. We have a fair amount of part-time help, and we have additional employees now that we didn't have last year. So I think she'll get it done, and I think she'll be able to prioritize what she needs to be. I have all the faith in the world in her. I just didn't quite agree with the amount of money. That was, but I guarantee, If you give a job to a busy person, they find a way to get it
Get
done.
done.
Right? If you give a job to a slacker, you'll never get it done.
You're preaching to the choir.
So, I think she'll get it done, and I have all the faith in her. I just couldn't get to the price point and bracket out to that, that's all. But I do have all the faith in her.
I mean, how much she could handle repairs on the vehicles?
She's gonna delegate.
Do we have people that repair the vehicles now?
The foreman does light repairs, and we had a retiree that used to do the bulk of the repairs, but when he got in trouble, we would sub it out, so we'll end up subbing out some. But we're also gonna, at some point, we're gonna look for a mechanic, a fabricator, a welder, and a machine operator, all in one. So if we can get someone like that, we will have really a productive highway department. Question is, what will that cost us?
So now you're gonna go to 5 people. Is that what
More
you're
than
saying?
No,
$35?
no, no.
You got 3 in the field, right now. 3 plus Lindsay as a supervisor.
As someone,
That's 4.
hold on,
Now, if we hire
as
a
someone
mechanic,
leaves,
that is
It,
5,
when
and
some,
then you got a seasonal worker, that's 6.
when somebody leaves,
that's
Oh,
when,
you didn't say that, okay.
yeah, when somebody, we're not adding anybody, when
Okay.
somebody leaves,
Then you're gonna do your, that's
correct.
perfect.
We're
That's
gonna
good.
hire somebody with those particular skill sets, or look for the most combination of those skill sets that we can find in one person.
Okay, that's good. I just can't comprehend the secretary going from 24, whatever it is, to all the way up down to 35. That's an $11 increase. I just don't get it. I mean,
What was your justification for going to the 35? Brad?
The rate to actually hire what we need is gonna be over in the 40s.
Yeah.
And 35 is definitely on the low end, given the skills that she's got.
She has no skills.
And
She
that's,
has administrative skills. She has no skills.
she has plenty of skills.
She has no skills.
That's your
She has
opinion.
no on-the-job training. She has no skills as a highway superintendent, and you're paying her a rate that she's not worth.
She has
Someone
supervisory
worse than
skills that
even
she has,
told you
she has
that.
supervisory skills that have already demonstrated.
What supervisory job did she do prior to this one? What qualifications did she come with in the supervisory skill before she came to the town of Brookfield? Do you even know? Did you check? Or are you just basing it on her performance with the town?
I'm basing it on her performance with the town.
Okay, so you didn't check on her background whatsoever?
So when you have somebody who's been employed with you for,
You still check on their references before you
no,
hire them?
no, stop for just a second, right? Stop for just a second. Whatever she did prior to the town, okay, and I'm familiar with a number of the jobs that she's done. I don't know that any of them she wound up in formal supervisory positions, okay? However, her performance has been very clear. The feedback that we've gotten from multiple members of the Highway Advisory Board have made it very clear that she has more leadership in probably one of her like little fingers than our last 2 superintendents, okay?
But you never checked on her jobs
So-
before you hired her tonight? You didn't look into her background? You didn't look into any references? You didn't look at her job history? You just hired her?
Motion to adjourn?
Don't you think, Beth, that
Motion
that is
Second.
just a little, don't you think that that's a little incompetent of the Board of Selectmen?
No. I think we've had demonstrated performance by a trusted town
I think it's
employee.
incompetent of you
Well,
to
you can
just
think
hire
that.
somebody
We've got a motion
without
and a
checking
second.
on their background. And to shut someone off
All
in the
in
middle of a
favor?
meeting is rude. It's downright
Any discussion?
absolutely rude, and that's why
Do
you
you have
shouldn't
anything
be a
to add?
selectman at all. Because
All
you're
in favor?
incompetent.
Aye.
Aye.
all right.
Incompetent. You just left